Hello friends, I'm gonna start a small class. I have somebody ask me how to create preset on a mesh using Rhino, and I'm gonna address that right now and probably a few tips for anybody who needs help trying to accomplish this. Alright, so let's go right into my computer. How you guys doing? So I can see the chat. If anybody has a question, I can see it in the background. Let me know if the music's loud. I can turn it back down. So the main question was, hey, I have a question by Ibrahim, I- um, Ibrahim Bahat. I hope I pronounced that right. A few days ago, I'm sorry I don't respond right away, but I've been busy lately. And his question is, if I make a sculpture in ZBrush, can I make holes all over the body of the mesh after I bring it into Rhino? Kindly help me with this as I have a test to pass before the 6th. So it's today will be literally the 2nd, so you got a few days. So I'm gonna give you a few tips of how to do this, especially the combination with Rhino and ZBrush. All right, so let's open up my laptop, and here I have a sculpture that I recently created for one of my clients, and it's this cool looking skull. And once you have your skull and everything ready for, for your sculpturing, um, the main thing I recommend you to do is just make sure the resolution is not too high. So if you need to, just remesh it and bring down the mesh, because if it's too high of a density mesh, you might have problems while trying to uh, work in Rhino. And I'm gonna give you a few other tips that it's gonna help you create um, to create that easy of use between Rhino and ZBrush. Okay, so once you have your model and you're done and you have one whole mesh, not multiple, like just make sure you put everything on the one mesh. Um, what you need to do is export it and export it as a OBJ. Okay, so I'm gonna export it, and here I have the skull. I'm gonna put it wherever I need it. I already saved it. So once you export it and it's remesh, or the the resolution is cut at least by half if you have a very thick mesh. So if you're struggling with the Rhino, that's it. It's just reduce the mesh, and then export it as a OBJ. So I already did that for this tutorial, and you're gonna open Rhino, and it's very important that you have this plugin called Grasshopper Gold. This is gonna be the easiest way for you to create uh, those cutters. And the number 2 tool that you have to make everything easier is called Materialize Magics, and I'll explain to you why do you need that software. You can try to do it in ZBrush, but usually I struggle with it, or I have a hard time cutting the holes with ZBrush or even inside Rhino. So your best bet is, once you create your cutters, is you're gonna cut it in Materialize Magics, depending on what version you can get. I think for a long time I was still using version 11, but now with the new company I'm working with, I have access to the not the newest, but a newer version of Materialize. Okay, so I have my blank page, and I'm just gonna import um, the model. So import, and I'm gonna put the skull, kind of a medium, not too high of a resolution mesh, but it's gonna help us. Okay, so there it is. See, it loaded pretty quick. I mean, this is a pretty powerful computer with 64 gigs of RAM, i9 with a 4090 RTX the video card, so it's not gonna have any problems opening a mesh like this. So here's the model exported. It's a one solid piece. If I turn on the mesh so you can see how dense it's not incredibly dense. It's okay, you know, it can handle that, but any more than this, Rhino would have a hard time creating or giving you a good mesh on the view. Anyway, so here I'm just gonna create stones. Let's just send this section of the forehead. I'm not gonna do it all, so I'm just gonna create a section so you can see how easy it is. So once you have installed Grasshopper Gold, what you need is to go into jewelry settings, and as easy as choosing gem on whatever. From any other plugin I tried before, this is the easiest. You can use bell gems if you don't want to use Grasshopper Gold, but it's free. You just create an account in Food for Rhino, and directly in Food for Rhino you can find Grasshopper Gold. So let me look for Food for Rhino. And Rhino Food for Rhino, what you can do is just create an account. And here you're gonna look for, I'm just gonna type in gold. And here, Grasshopper Gold. This is the version I'm using on my computer. It works on Mac. I don't use Mac, so it's free. You can look at their tutorials. They're amazing, but this is free. I think it's 5.9. What version is it? It doesn't specify, but I think it's 5.9 something. There's a paid version of Grasshopper 6, and I think you would still have a very good use for it. Does it say the version's in? Okay, so for patrons, version 6 and 5 point something. Okay, so it's very inexpensive and is the only tool that I use to create all my jewelry. So once that's out of the way, let's go back into the computer, and it's just, you're gonna go into, not into gems, but you're gonna go into jewelry setting, and you're gonna choose this one, which is gem on. So you just click on it, click the surface, and it's gonna automatically start reading it. The first thing I do is I change the size depending of how I'm gonna start. I'm gonna pick a spot, so let's just change the size to, I press the letter S and change it to 1.5. So I have 1.5 millimeter stones, 1.5, or I can just go in here and say maybe 2 millimeters. And then if you see the blue line, you can change the setting of how deep is into the model. That's a little bit too low in there, so I'm gonna change the C offset at 0.01. See what that looks like. That's a lot better. And then I can just start putting my objects. I'm gonna disable all the snapping points just so I can get a free flow. And all I need to do is just start creating my pave like if I was doing it by hand. I'm just gonna do a small section, just there. I'm gonna start right in the middle of the skull, but I would recommend you to ask a setter how he would set it, or what would be the best option to start this process. I would consult if you don't know anything about setting. I would consult, but right now I'm just doing this so you can see an example. I'm trying to do like a honeycomb style. Okay, that's pretty good. So once you do your initial lines, I'm gonna focus on this area now. Start from here and right there. I'm just trying to follow a line, not necessarily need to be perfect honeycomb. I'm trying to do a follow into the pieces. So as you can see, starts taking form. So far, Grasshopper Gold, it's got the best flow when I'm trying to create preset more than any other software I tried before. And I've tried quite a few. I've tried from Matrix 4 all the way to into Matrix Gold right now, which is the new one. And they have their bugs, and the most efficient with less bugs has been Grasshopper Gold. I wish it had some of the features that the other versions have, especially version Matrix 9 was my favorite of all times, um, especially with rendering. But you got to work with what you have. If you don't have the money to spend on Matrix Gold, but right now you want to start with Rhino, you can just get a copy of Rhino, and start messing around with Grasshopper Gold. So I'm gonna put those in there. That sounds pretty good, at least for us. It looks pretty good so far. Um, let's just start with that section there. It's not exactly symmetrical, but at least it gets you in the ballpark. There's other ways to create this pave, which it will look a little bit more handmade. And since I know how to do stone setting, at least this is how we start. And here maybe I'll put smaller stones. So I just change S for the size, and I'll go like 1.3s. It's too small. S, and then 1.5. That's better. Too small. Size 1.7. See, that's better. My offset to 0.01. See, that's much better. And I'll just continue that here. That's too small. Maybe I put one here. So that could be a good start of putting your stones, depending how symmetrical you make your pieces. Let's go for ghosted here. So if it's very symmetrical, you can just mirror what you've done. If your piece is completely symmetrical, mine isn't, so it's not gonna entirely work because the piece is not very symmetrical. So I might have to create this whole face, the forehead, all individually. Check the chat real quick. All right, then no one. You can type in a question. I can see the chat. If you have a question, let me know if the audio is good. If the music's too loud, I can still turn it down a little bit. But usually I work with music. Personally, I like that. Anyways, so once you have your holes, the holes, this is just if you want to create holes. If you want to create preset, it's a little bit different. But let's just say you're done with your pave and everything is in place. How do you put prongs? Well, I like to do it manually, so I just go with prongs on block or prongs on anything. Click the icon, click the model I want to put prongs on, and I'll do the same. There is an automatic tool, but since I do setting, I know how to set. I'd rather put my prongs exactly what I need them and the size. They're not always the same size, just because I like the piece to look more handmade more than an automatic tool. So if you work with symmetry, you only have to create half. So for size, I want them bigger, maybe a 0.7. The prongs. So that's a little bit better. Diameter. So let's go 0.7. See, that's a little bit better for this. And height, you can put whatever you want. So if the offset is 1, height 0.45. For this is fine. And just play with those settings, whatever your setter can use. Maybe the one higher, maybe the one lower. I don't know. You got to check with the person that is going to finish this. If it's you, then I recommend you to just try once or twice and just practice. So I'll start putting my prongs into the piece, but the question specifically was the holes, right? So let's just leave the prongs aside for a second. All right, so the advantage of using Grasshopper Gold is that if I have all these pieces already done, I can select them all. I would recommend you just group them, which is Control G. It would group all these pieces. Or you can go into this icon here that says Group Objects. So once I have that, how do I create cutters? Well, I'm going to go in here where it says Cutters. I'm going to turn off the mesh that I'm working on, and I'm gonna figure out what do I need. There's different ways to do it. You just gotta figure out the way that works best for how you manufacture your jewelry. In this case, I'm using the first. I go on cutters. Let me do that one more time. I'm gonna select the gems. I'm gonna change to the cutter scene on Grasshopper Gold, and I'm gonna go in gem cutters, which is the first tab. Click the left button, and once it says select gems, click on that. Okay, so now I have all these settings that I can play with. So usually I pick a spot where I can see how far down, how much do I need in this piece. If, let's just say, you don't want to do a whole lot, you just want to create quick holes into the piece. For my personal use, I could use this one, and all I can do is just offset the entire piece. But let's say I want to do something that's accurate to cut as much as weight as possible, as close to the stone. Okay, so first thing I would do is I would reduce the height of the hole. Maybe say maybe this much, and maybe I just offset it just a little bit. Okay, just maybe a tiny tab. And then let's just check with the mesh, how much am I cutting? You don't want to cut too much, so that is pretty good. If you just want to leave a dot, you can try the other icon, which is this one here. This second gem cutter is a little bit simpler, so select it, and now it just gives you a stick. So first things first, I'm gonna offset it probably around there, and I just want it to be a little bit wider, around maybe 60% of the actual stone, and just create and turn that off. And there I have my holes to start creating the pave, because I'm gonna finish it by hand. This is just for a guide. So depending of how many cutters you have, group them, and this is how you're gonna cut them. You can try to do it in Rhino Gold, but it's not gonna work most of the time. You can export them into ZBrush and do the Boolean difference, but most of the time it's not going to work. So what I do is I select my model and I export it as a STL. So export selected. Let's go on 3D work. Let's go into save it somewhere. Let's go. Let's just name it skull cutting test 1. Put as an STL, and just save it. It's gonna take a little bit of time to save it, but once you have it, oh, it's not appearing on my the screen. I'll put it up right now. Just put OK. So let me do it one more time. So I'm going to select the skull. I'm going to put export selected. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to save it over. Click in there, put save, replace it or whatever, binary. Yes, it's a mesh, so it's not going to ask you to convert anything. There. Second thing to do is to select the actual cutters and export them as well. Same place, same scene, export selected. Try to put everything in the same folder, just like I did. Everything is going to go in this folder for this particular model. You don't want to have different models in the same scene. You want to have different folders for all the models, because you're going to put all this as separate items. So it's just for maintenance and easy to find what you're trying to use. So this one's going to be called skull cutters, and it's going to ask me like, do you want to save this? And let's just wait to see what he says right now. Since it's a since it's a 3DM file, now it's asking me for the settings. Copy these settings right here because it seems to give me enough perfect mesh for everything. It's different for the default, and for printing, for creating mesh, for fixing files, this has been one of the best settings I have for making cutters and my STLs for printing. They retain resolution, and they also not that they don't become big file. There's a limit of, especially when you're doing sculpture, and how much does the printer can read, and if it compresses it, you lose a lot of resolution. So personally, I don't like to lose resolution when I'm creating a sculpturing. Sorry for the dogs in the background. And then just press OK, and there's my mesh. Okay, so what's next? Okay, so now we're gonna move into magics. So let's turn on magics. Version 22.03, that's the one I'm using, but you can use the older. It's very basic stuff that I use in magics. Okay, so what now? All right, so now I'm gonna load both of the files that I was working on. So let's go to my computer. Where's my computer? Desktop. No. Okay. Work. 3D work. No. Rendering class. Nope. It's not either. Okay. Setting. Okay. There they are. So it reads my OBJ and it reads the two STL files that I created. So I'm just gonna select both of them at the same time. Very important. Select everything at the same time. Just click open. If the item's really small, it's gonna ask like, do you want to make it small? Just don't do it. Just leave it as is. And there is a very simple tool that you need here. Let's position it in such a way that you can see I have all the cutters in here. There they are. So what tool do you use to cut those? Well, it's gonna be right here, or select everything. Let's zoom out, and I'm just gonna select everything in there. And this tool right here is gonna appear right here in the corner. It's called Boolean difference, or just click on this button and it's gonna ask you which one you want to subtract from who. So the cutters are red, so you want to subtract the red from the green. Just read it, because materialize would sometimes we choose which one it's red, which one's green. You have no control of that. So just look at the colors, look at your cutters. Usually those are the ones you want to subtract from the other model. In this case, the cutters are red, the model is green, and just click OK. And just put yes. And it's going to do the magic for you. So let's wait. Okay, what happened? Line difference. Subtract red from green. Hit OK. Oh, okay. So there's bad edges. Okay, that's why. So let's select this one. Control F for magics for the browser. So let's close this to start all over again. Let's fix them before we create the cutters. Okay, so that's a good thing that happened in time. So let's go with the skull. Let's fix this one first. Looks like one of them has bad edges. Okay, so just put Control F and it's going to give you the wizard. Go to update and it's going to ask you, it's going to tell you what you need to fix. So it's just going over through the mesh and finding problems. You can just follow advice and just automatic fixing, and usually gets it done. Sometimes it's just shells or holes that you need to close. You can do it manually, but to make it easier, just follow the automatic fixing. Okay, let's go follow advice, update. It should be at 0. 3 shells. Okay, so let's go to shells and let's find out. Okay, let's move this here, Control F. Let's see, it's got some bad shells. Okay, nothing you can actually see. So what I would do is just grab those shells that I can't see, I don't know where they are, and just delete them. I delete them, follow advice, update, and it should be okay. 1 shell detected, perfect. So let's close this, and do not, all you need to do is unload the piece. So unload parse selected, click that, and just say save it. That's all you need to use, load and unload. And don't save it, don't put Control S, save as, just unload and load and save over. So never ask this again. Oh yes, I always want to know. So yes, we go back to our computer. YouTube, and then save it over. Skull cutting test 1. Okay, just save it over, replace. And just in case the cutters are weird, we're just gonna go through them, just try to cut them now again all together. So load again, just load both, open. Usually with masters on ZBrush, you're gonna have that problem. So it looks like everything's selected. Select everything, Boolean difference, same, subtract red from green, put OK. And it should do it for you. There it is. So that was it. That was the whole problem, was that the mesh wasn't working correctly because there was a problem on the mesh. So this worked better. This is the easiest way to create cutters consistently without having too many problems. So let me go through the steps one more time. So once you create your mesh, export it, decimate it, make sure there's not too much of a higher that is not too much of a high resolution. Once it's exported, you load it into your Rhino scene. The only way that you're gonna get something quick is with Grasshopper Gold. Try with whatever program you using, see if it lets you work with mesh. As far as I know, that I try right now, Grasshopper Gold is the easiest. You're gonna go to Jewelry setting and create your cutters with gem on surface, and if you need to make prongs, you can put prong on surface. Once you create your cutters and you have your stones, export your model separately from the cutters so you can make the Boolean difference or do the cutting with magics. So once you create them, you export them as a STL. It's very important that you export them as a STL. Import into Rhino from OBJ into Rhino. Save the scene. So save as. And YouTube ring class. Nope. Where are we? Render cost files. YouTube. Okay. So we're gonna save it as skull cutting practice. Okay, we're gonna save it as that. You export each one of them as an STL, and then you're gonna open it with magics, and in magics you're gonna get this results. Now all you need to do is just unload, which is this little square here. Unload the part. Always use unload. For whatever reason, if you put save as, it would compensate for shrinkage, and it's been a nightmare. So just make sure you put unload, and then you put yes, and you can save it on your skull for test, or click on it and put skull fixed or final, and just save it as that. and that way if you need to change the other one, at least the first one, you know, it's already fixed and you don't necessarily need to make more files. All right, so this is the easiest way that I can show you how to create cutters while for models or sculpturing you do from ZBrush into Rhino in combination with Grasshopper Gold. If you have any questions, let me know. Keep posting them. I hope to answer those questions. I know I wish it was as easy as just one program, a couple click of buttons, but with practice, you would see how easy actually this method and that is consistent. That you don't need to try to see what's right, what's wrong. It's fairly simple. It just needs practice. All right, friends. So I hope everything's good with you. We are celebrating Labor Day here in United States. So happy Labor Day to everybody. And I will see you in another video. I will try to be more active and making, probably I'm only going to be making live streams because I'm working with a company right now, I have a contract, and for the next few years we're going to be pretty busy. So I have not been able to spend much time creating videos for you guys, but I hope that this tutorial helps you. And I will see you in another video. Take care, guys. God bless you. Bye.